The night was colder than usual. A thick fog blanketed the small village where Thien, a quiet 10-year-old boy, lived with his grandmother, ever since the tragic accident that took the lives of his parents. Thien hadn't spoken much. People in the village whispered about that day, the way the brakes failed, how the car plunged into the river, and how Thien alone was found unharmed on the muddy bank, his eyes wide with terror, whispering something about a man in black who had called his name. No one believed him. His grandmother, an old woman with deep wrinkles and tired eyes, believed only in incense, prayer, and fate, but even she began to worry when Thien started waking up screaming every night. "He's standing at the door again. Grandma, he's waiting for me." The dreams were always the same. A man dressed in black robes, wearing a wide-brimmed hat that shadowed his face, stood at the foot of Thien's bed. His voice was cold, ancient, and echoed in a language Thien couldn't understand, but still felt drawn to. One night, Thien awoke with a nosebleed. Not a normal one. This blood was black. His grandmother called for help the next morning, but she didn't call a doctor. She sent a letter to someone she hadn't spoken to in nearly 20 years, Master Tan, a wandering geomancer and spiritualist, known in whispers as the man who reads the land of the dead. 3 days later, Master Tan arrived, carrying nothing but a small wooden box and a walking stick made of sandalwood. His eyes were sharp, and he said very little as he looked Thien over. That evening, he performed a ritual in the front yard. He scattered ash, salt, and crushed bones into a circle. After hours of silence, he looked up with a grim expression and muttered, "He is marked." "By what?" the grandmother asked, trembling. "Not what. Who?" "The Lord of the Underworld. Diem Vong. The boy is being called back. Someone in your bloodline owes a debt to the afterlife." Thunder cracked outside, even though the sky was clear. Master Tan lit 3 sticks of incense and planted them into the ground. He should not be alive. But something, or someone, intervened. "What do we do now?" the grandmother asked. "There is only one way to delay the curse," he said. "From now on, the boy must stay inside during the day, but at night, he must sleep at the graveyard. Alone." Thien's grandmother gasped. But Master Tan was resolute. "It is the only way to confront the Lord who hunts him. To stay hidden in the light is useless. He must walk through the dark." From that night on, Thien's fate was no longer his own. The path between the living and the dead had been opened, and the first steps had already been taken. The graveyard lay at the edge of the village, shrouded in mist and silence. No one dared go near it after sunset, except now. A small boy with a blanket, a flickering lantern, and a trembling heart. Thien stood at the threshold, staring at the sea of tombstones that seemed to stretch forever into the darkness. "I'll be watching from afar," Master Tan had said earlier. "But you must face him yourself." That first night, Thien didn't sleep. He sat cross-legged beneath a twisted banyan tree, heart pounding as shadows moved just outside the reach of his lantern's light. And then, the whisper came. "Thien," a soft voice, like leaves rustling, or a wind from beneath the ground. He clutched the amulet Master Tan had given him, a jade stone wrapped in red thread. "Your blood owes a price," the voice said again. "You should have drowned. You were promised." Suddenly, the lantern blew out. In the pitch black, Thien saw him, Diem Vong, no longer just a figure in his dreams. The Lord of the Underworld hovered above the graves, cloak fluttering, eyes glowing dimly behind the shadow of his hat. "Why me?" Thien whispered. "Because your ancestor ran," Diem Vong replied. "He bargained, escaped judgment, and your bloodline hid the debt. Now, it falls to you." As the cold pressed into Thien's skin like needles, the boy saw visions, images flashing in his mind like broken mirrors. A man fleeing a temple, dragging a wounded leg, a scroll signed in blood. A child sacrificed at a riverbank, but saved at the last second. He saw his face, not as himself, but as the child once offered to the underworld. "That was me," Thien murmured, eyes wide. "That was you," the voice confirmed, "and it is you again." At sunrise, Master Tan found Thien asleep under the tree, pale, lips blue, but alive. Back at the house, Thien remained silent until night fell again. You saw him, didn't you? Master Tan asked. Thien nodded slowly. He said I owe him. That I was already meant to die once. The old man sighed. It's as I feared. You carry a life stolen. A fate broken and now chasing you. Thien looked up, his voice trembling. Will he come back every night? Yes. Master Tan replied. Until the curse is resolved. Until you pay, or are freed. How can I be freed? The old man's gaze darkened. You must survive until your 18th birthday. Then, and only then, may you sever the chain. How? Thien asked. By marrying a girl born with the purest water destiny, a girl of the Tui fate. She alone can cool the fire in your blood and quench the hunger of the dead. Thien was only 10. The idea of marriage, of fate, of battling demons, was still foreign, but that night, as he packed his things and walked back to the graveyard once more, he understood one thing. He wasn't just fighting for his life. He was fighting to pay a debt born from sins he never committed, but that lived inside his very blood. The third night was colder. Thien's breath came out in misty puffs as he walked the cracked path to the graveyard. His tiny lantern casting long, nervous shadows over the old tombstones. The wind whispered names he didn't know. Names of the dead. Names that answered back. He passed the same crooked headstone for the third time that week. Tran Van Lock. Died at 33. Buried facing the east. But tonight, it was cracked down the middle. And a dead crow lay at its base. Don't stop walking, Master Tan had warned. And don't ever answer if the dead call your name. Thien found his spot beneath the banyan tree, placed his lantern down, and wrapped himself in the thin blanket. Around him, the night pulsed, alive with things unseen. The wind changed, the shadows thickened, and then came the scratching. Soft at first, then louder, like fingernails dragging across stone. Thien turned slowly, one grave over. Soil began to shift. Something beneath was moving, not rising, but pressing from below, like it wanted out but hadn't decided how yet. Scratch, scratch, scratch. A pale, decayed hand burst through the dirt. Thien froze. A second hand followed, then a skull, half covered in moss, its jaw unhinged and twitching. The corpse didn't climb out, it crawled backward, dragging itself into the open, head first, like it was being pulled. Thien, it croaked, voice hollow as an empty well. He remembered Master Tan's words and shut his eyes tight, gripping the jade amulet so hard it dug into his palm. He didn't answer. The corpse dragged closer. Its breath was ice. Its mouth opened, revealing teeth not meant for chewing, but for biting, tearing, stealing breath. Suddenly, a wind howled through the graveyard, slamming into the corpse with the force of a typhoon. The body flew backward, crashing into a gravestone with a sickening crunch. A new figure stood across the field, Diem Vong, arms folded behind his back. Watching, he didn't speak this time. Instead, he gestured. One by one, tombstones cracked, earth burst open, the dead rose. Some were whole, others broken in half. Some still wore shreds of funeral cloth. Others were burnt, melted from old fires. They shuffled, crawled, slithered toward Thien, not to kill him, but to test him. You want to survive, a voice echoed in his mind. Then prove your blood is worth saving. Thien screamed, but it wasn't fear that came out, it was fire. The jade amulet pulsed. A circle of pale green light erupted around him, sending the nearest corpse into ash. He didn't know what he was doing, only that the fear had turned into rage. The dead closed in. One grabbed his ankle. You don't belong here, Thien yelled. And then, silence. He opened his eyes. The dead were gone. The grass was still. The fog had lifted slightly, revealing a pale blue dawn on the horizon. Master Tan stood nearby, eyes full of unreadable emotion. You survived the third night, he said. Now the real trial begins. That wasn't the real one? Thien whispered, still shaking. No, the old man said. That was only the gate. From now on, you won't just face the dead. Then what will I face? Thien asked. Master Tan looked toward the oldest part of the graveyard, where no one dared go. The ones who should never have lived at all. The fourth night came with no stars. Dark clouds smothered the sky, and even the moon refused to rise. It was a night the villagers once called the Hollow Veil, a time when the world of the living thins, and what lies beneath can walk freely. Thien arrived at the graveyard, his lantern flickering like it, too, feared what was coming. Master Tan didn't say a word tonight. He merely stood by the gate, watching silently, as if even he dared not speak. Go to the back, he finally whispered, to the graves marked in red. What's there? Thien asked. The unburied, the cursed, those who were never meant to rest. Thien walked, deeper than he'd ever gone. The air grew thick and heavy. The grass turned gray beneath his feet. Then he saw them, 6 graves, each marked with red thread tied around the stone, each sunken into the earth like the soil was trying to swallow them whole. No names, no dates, only symbols scratched by fingernails and blood. Suddenly, a sound, a child's laugh. High, broken, wrong. He turned. A girl stood behind him. She wore a white dye, tattered and dirty, her long black hair covering her face. She tilted her head at him, twitching slightly, like a puppet held by invisible strings. You're the boy who sleeps with us now, she whispered. Thien said nothing. She stepped forward, and the hair parted. Her eyes were gone. Empty sockets stared at him, black as the night. They took my eyes, she said softly, because I saw something I wasn't supposed to. Want to know what it was? Thien stepped back. The air around her shimmered like heat on metal. Her smile widened, too wide, stretching up to her ears. I saw him. I saw Diem Vong take my mother. Then he came back for me. Her voice was filled with sorrow, but her body? Her body moved like it wanted to kill. Without warning, her head twisted sharply, cracking to one side. Her arms jerked like broken limbs as she lunged. Thien ran, through rows of dead trees, through crumbling tombs, the girl's laughter echoing behind him. You saw him too, didn't you? He visits us at night. He whispers in the dirt. He says we'll be free, when we take you. She appeared ahead of him now, no footsteps, just sudden presence. She opened her mouth, and a swarm of black moths poured out, clouding his vision. Thien fell to his knees. He reached for his amulet, but it was cold, silent. Then he heard the chanting. Low, deep, ancient. From the red graves, the earth cracked. Hands burst from the soil, thin, long, covered in burnt flesh. They weren't reaching for Thien. They were reaching for her. The girl screamed, not in fear, but in rage. She thrashed and hissed, but the hands grabbed her, dragged her backward into the earth. The soil swallowed her whole. And then, silence. Only the sound of Thien's breathing remained. Master Tan appeared beside him. She wasn't supposed to be here. That spirit was never laid to rest. She's one of the forgotten, a soul trapped between worlds. Thien looked at the graves, still glowing faintly red. Who buried them? No one. Master Tan said. That's the problem. They died cursed. And now they draw power from Diem Vong's shadow. Each one of them will come for you. Thien turned to him, voice quiet but steady. How many nights do I have left? Too many, Master Tan replied. But if you keep surviving, they'll grow stronger. And soon, even the dead won't be the worst thing you face. It was the 5th night. The wind howled like wolves in mourning. And the incense Thien lit at the edge of the graveyard refused to stay aflame, snuffed out again and again by something unseen. Tonight felt different. He knew at the moment he stepped past the red-threaded graves and reached a place even Master Tan had warned him never to tread. Where the earth curves unnaturally. Where the moss grows in spirals. You must never stay long. That place once belonged to a man who twisted heaven's will. But now, Thien stood there. The clearing was silent, ringed by crooked stones. In the center lay a shattered Le Ban Feng Tui, an old Feng Shui compass. Rusted and broken, the needle spinning without end. Suddenly, it stopped. The air grew sharp. From the ground rose a man, his body rotted and hunched. His face half burned, eyes sunken deep into skull-like sockets. He wore the robes of a Thay Feng Tui, embroidered in black symbols that shifted when Thien blinked. You are the boy marked by the king below. The ghost rasped, voice like wind scraping over bone. Thien stepped back. Who are you? The ghost lifted his broken compass. I am Master Hoang, once the most gifted geomancer in the south. I defied the stars, bent ley lines, shifted death from my doorstep to another's. I cheated fate, until Diem Vong came to collect. He floated forward, the ground beneath him withering. And now I wander, cursed. My soul never rests. My compass never points north. Because I reversed the heavens. Thien raised his jade amulet. Stay back. Master Hoang laughed. That charm protects from the dead. But I am something else. He raised a hand, and the trees twisted. Roots snapped from the soil. The very wind obeyed him. The energy of the earth bent. And Thien felt the compass in his blood shatter. I offer you a choice. The ghost hissed. Let me enter you. Let me see through your eyes. And I will shift your death to someone else. You mean, kill another child? Thien whispered. Someone will die either way. Master Hoang said. But if you let me guide your soul, I can buy you years. Maybe even forever. Temptation clawed at Thien. A voice in his head whispered. Say yes. Survive. You didn't ask for this curse. But deep down, he knew. That was how Master Hoang had started. By saying yes. And someone else, someone innocent, had died in his place. Thien gritted his teeth. I'd rather face Diem Vong every night of my life than become like you. The ghost let out a terrible screech. The sound of 1,000 needles piercing skin. His body tore into fragments of smoke, slamming into Thien, but the jade amulet flared violently, burning him back with a blinding green light. So be it, he roared, vanishing into ash. But remember, the king below always comes to collect. The earth calmed, the wind died, the broken compass lay silent once more. Thien dropped to his knees. Exhausted, Master Tan appeared behind him, a flicker of pride and worry in his eyes. You did well. Refusing his offer means you still have a soul. He was like you once. Thien said, a master of the land. Of energy. What happened to him? Power without humility corrupts. Master Tan replied. He rewrote the maps of fate. And the heavens wrote him out of mercy. Now, he lingers where no spirit belongs. And me? Thien asked. Will I end up like him? The old man placed a hand on his shoulder. Not if you keep choosing what's right over what's easy. But as they walked back toward the edge of the graveyard, neither spoke of what they both felt. A new presence watching them now. Older than death. Older than Diem Vong. And far less patient. That night, Thien didn't dream of the graveyard. He dreamed of water. Cool, endless water, rippled in moonlight, flowing through a forest of willow trees. The silence was almost peaceful. Almost. Then he saw her. A girl in a flowing blue dye stood barefoot on the surface of the river. Her long hair swaying like strands of silk beneath water. Her face was soft but unreadable, pale like a statue carved from mist. Her eyes were strange, not lifeless, but old, as if they remembered centuries before him. You've been calling me, she said, voice echoing like wind through hollow bamboo. Thien tried to speak, but no words came. His mouth moved. Nothing. She walked closer, each step leaving behind glowing ripples on the water. I am the tide that never floods. The well that never dries. I am the last door they haven't locked you from. Who are you? Thien finally managed to whisper. She smiled, sadly. I am the one who can unbind the chain Diem Vong placed on your soul. Lightning flashed across the dream sky, revealing brief shapes behind her, figures in shadow. Watching, silent. You carry a curse tied to the underworld. She continued, but curses, like rivers, can be redirected. How? Through a bond older than death, older than blood. You must marry me. Thien stared at her. What? When you turn 18, our lives must merge. Water will cleanse what fire and earth have scorched. My fate balances yours. But you're not alive. Are you? She hesitated. And in that silence, the river turned dark. The willow trees bent. The shadows crept forward, whispering in a tongue he didn't understand. I am not fully dead either. She replied. I was born of water. Shaped by fate. If you reject me, the river will dry. The fire will spread. And Diem Vong will not wait for your next birthday. Suddenly, the world shook. The dream began to crack, like glass splitting under pressure. The girl turned to him one last time. When the lotus blooms in winter, follow the scent. That is where I'll wait. Her voice faded with the wind. Then, a scream. Not hers. His. Thien woke up drenched in sweat. The smell of wet soil and river mud clinging to his skin. His blanket was soaked. The amulet around his neck burned with a soft blue light. Master Tan rushed in. What did you see? Thien didn't know how to answer. The words barely formed before he whispered. I think I met her. Her? The girl. The one I'm supposed to marry. The one who might save me. Master Tan's face went pale. That's not possible. She's not meant to appear, not until the end. Then why did she come now? The old man looked toward the window, where frost had begun to form despite the warmth of spring. Because the end may come sooner than we thought. It rained the next morning. Not the gentle kind, but cold. Misty rain that clung to the skin like forgotten fingers. Thien stood by the wooden fence, staring at the horizon. The words from his dream still echoed in his mind. When the lotus blooms in winter, follow the scent. There were no lotuses in his village. At least, there shouldn't have been. But by noon, a strange rumor spread. A farmer named Ba Kuang claimed that near the old flooded rice paddies, a place no one had touched for years, a patch of lotus had bloomed. White, fragrant, unseasonal. It's cursed, he said, or blessed. Can't tell the difference these days. That night, Thien didn't wait for Master Tan's permission. He took his lantern, wore his amulet, and followed the winding dirt path past the edge of the village. Through bamboo groves and slippery stones. Until he saw it, the lotus field. A circle of blooming white lotuses rising from dark, still water. Mist hung above them like a veil. The air smelled sweet and cold, like something from a forgotten memory. She stood in the middle. Not a dream, not an illusion. Her, the girl from the river. She wore the same flowing blue ao dai, her black hair swaying slightly though there was no wind. This time, her face was clearer, human, but her eyes, still ancient. You came, she said softly. Thien stepped onto the muddy bank. His breath fogged the air. Is this real? As real as anything in a world that doesn't want you to live. Why did you show yourself now? She looked at the moon reflected in the water. Because the path is splitting. You've survived 6 nights. Diem Vong is growing impatient. Suddenly, the water beneath her rippled, and black veins of shadow curled upward like tendrils. Her feet began to sink slowly into the dark water. He's trying to pull me back, she said, calm but strained. He knows I'm your key. Thien rushed forward, but the shadows hissed at him, burning the air. What do I do? He shouted. She reached into her sleeve and threw something. A small object landed at his feet, a silver ring, engraved with wave patterns and old Chinese characters. The metal pulsed with soft blue light. When the 7th night comes, she whispered, wear this. If you bleed while wearing it, I'll be able to find you again. No matter how deep the underworld takes you. The shadows surged. They dragged her into the water, swallowing her like a stone dropped into a bottomless well. Thien ran to the spot, but the pond was calm again. Silent. The lotuses were gone. All that remained was the ring in his hand. And a whisper in his mind. Don't die before I return. The 7th night came wrapped in thunder. Rain fell in silver sheets, drenching the world in a storm that smelled of blood and fire. The trees groaned like dying beasts. Thien stood alone at the edge of the graveyard, his lantern flickering, the silver ring glowing faintly on his finger. He had made the cut. Just a shallow one across his palm. Blood touched the ring, and the world began to change. The earth trembled. A crack tore open in the sky, black as ink, and from it descended a throne of bones. Draped in red smoke, upon it sat Diem Vong, the king below. He wore a crown of broken jade, his robes stitched from shadows. His face was neither human nor god, just a void where souls went to disappear. 7 nights, the god said, voice like 1,000 drums. 7 chances. You have not yielded. Impressive, but pointless. Thien stepped forward, holding up his hand. I have the mark. I carry the curse. But I also have the bond. Diem Vaughn's eyes narrowed. The water girl. She's not just a spirit. She's fate's correction. The earth cracked as Diem Vaughn rose from his throne. No fate corrects itself without a price. Then take mine, Thien said. Take half of it, leave the other half for her. There was silence. Then, unexpectedly, laughter. It echoed across the graveyard, shaking bones from their graves. So be it. Diem Vaughn raised a clawed hand and struck down. But before the blow could land, water surged from the ground, rising like a great serpent of silver light. The girl appeared, wrapped in a robe of waves, her hands glowing with ancient script. She stood between Thien and death. You will not take him, she said calmly. His soul is no longer yours. Their eyes met. No more words were needed. She kissed Thien's cut palm, and the blood vanished. The ring glowed brighter. A sound like chimes filled the air. And then, Diem Vaughn disappeared, swallowed by the very shadows he ruled. The clouds parted. The storm stopped. The graveyard went still. 1 year later, Thien stood by the riverside, wearing a white dye lined with deep blue. The village gathered, silent and wide-eyed, as he married the girl no one could see but him. Some said she was a ghost. Some said she was a goddess. But to Thien, she was home. The curse never returned. His dreams were quiet now, except on rare nights, when the wind whispered across the lotus fields, and he could hear her humming, barefoot on the water, smiling beneath the moon.